Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. Frank here, working on the Cub Cadet Mini Dozer. We finished the body shop work, or at least the fabrication of the body panels last week, working on painting, cleaning up and tying up a couple loose ends. I put a hold down clamp on the battery here, and I've just finished putting the primer coat on the fender assembly, the toolbox panel support, the tunnel cover, and the two leg panels. So all those have first coat of primer on them, and the primer I'm using is a Rust-Oleum Rust Reformer, which, you know, is a really good primer. I've been really pleased with it. I have never had, in 10 years of use, have not had, and maybe 10 years is, I don't know, maybe that's not long enough of a test, but I haven't had any bare metal and even light rust rust through the paint coat after priming it with this Rust Reformer primer. So I was wearing a hydrocarbon respirator while painting, and I have the doors open here to air the shop out a little bit before I close it up and let the dogs back in. One other thing I've got and I haven't put on yet is the front panel, the grill, and so that goes right in there. I did drill and tap for 1/4-20 screws here. Normally this panel is held on by some spring clips. The spring clips won't work here because I've got the gas tank support here. Okay, we'll come back after this primer's dry and get a finished coat of paint on these panels. There's my brew. You're a good boy. You're a good puppy. You're a good boy. You're being a good puppy. Give me that paw. Give me that paw. Yeah. You're a good boy. Yeah. My good boy. My good brew. Yeah. All right, good puppy. Yeah. You're my good boy. You're my good boy. Yeah. All right, we'll get these lights mounted here. Need to drill 3 holes, 2 for screws and 1 for the lead. So I've marked this 1 1/8 down and 3/4 of an inch from the end. And let me mark the other side the same way. I'm a good brew. I'm a good boy. A good puppy. Yeah. I made one additional change. I mentioned that I was concerned about the rear drive shaft, and I fixed it. I didn't record it. So this drive shaft here has a flex coupling here and a flex coupling up at the other end of it, and that end is supported by the 1-inch shaft, the front drive shaft, and a pillow block bearing. And back here, when I first assembled this, I neglected to include the bushing in this rear coupling, and my drive shaft here was a little bit too short. So I made a new drive shaft about 1 inch longer and included the coupling, and I can show you what that coupling looks like, or the bushing inside here. So this is a bronze sleeve. It has a ball bearing in the middle for centering purposes, and so I replaced the original bushing with one similar to this, and so that drive shaft now engages this bronze bushing here, and that holds the end of the drive shaft stationary and eliminates the little bit of wobble. I had about a 1/4 inch wobble in that shaft, and it's just because these rubber discs were not exactly concentric, so it was making it wobble. But that, including that bushing in that coupler, eliminates that, and it now runs true. No vibration, no movement at all. So accomplished that. All right, so I got a light first coat on the body panels, and this is the fender assembly, so it's just got a light first coat on it. A little heavier coat on these horizontal pieces, the toolbox tray and the tunnel cover, and again just a light coat, first coat on the footwells. It's about 45 degrees out and wet, so I can't leave the doors open. The temperature here will fall below the recommended painting temperature for these. But what I did is I put a coat on and then opened the doors, let the shop air out for a few minutes, and then close the doors. And the fumes have largely gone. Obviously there's still some coming from the wet paint, but it does dry pretty quickly. It's already dry to the touch. So we'll let that cure overnight and come back and put another coat on it tomorrow. Meanwhile, the air handler is running, and the filter on the air handler picks up a lot of the paint overspray if it gets like in the air. So I'll find that filter will be yellow by the time I'm done. I did pull in the 3-point hitch blade that I have for my Kubota, and I mean it's a standard. It's sitting up on the blade now. These are the hitch points. It's a smaller category 1. So we'll look at this. I need to turn the bulldozer around. Can't really do that till I get the seat back on it. So once I get the final coat on these panels, be another couple days, I can spin the dozer around here. I think I can just turn it around in place here in the shop, and then get the front of it facing this way. I don't have, I mean, I could make room up here to work on it, but I really don't have as much room up here as I have back here, or I could pull it backwards. Anyway, once I get the body panels back on, we'll get the blade in front of the dozer and start looking at what it's, how we could fit it to the tractor. I got a couple of fans. These are 12-volt weatherproof fans for cooling the hydrostatic transmissions. So I just put a couple of number 10 screws through the holes here. I'm getting ready to measure I need to make a bracket to hold these. So let's see. Looks like it's 4.7. All right, 4.7 minus 0.16, 4.54 inches on center, so it's pretty close to 4.5 inches on center. So I need, the diameter of this circle is 4 inches, so I need 4-inch circle with 4 holes that are 4.54 inches apart. What I'm going to do is make a support, probably something like this. Wide enough to span inside the frame of the tractor. Measure that. I just want to place the fan above the transmission here. So I want the panel to span across here, and it needs to fit. It needs to fit where this voltage regulator is, or I may need to move it. In any case, it needs to span between these two frame members here, which look like they're 10.5 inches apart. The top one is 11.5. So it could go at the 11.5 inch mark as well. Maybe you can't see down here, but this is about 10 7/8. Yeah, so this frame here is about 10 7/8. I'm going to make it 10 3/4. All right, so one is going to be 10 3/4, and one is going to be 11 1/4. All right, so I'll model 2 parts in Fusion 360 and we'll cut them out on the plasma table. I got the hydraulic valves to operate the blade, a pair of twin spool valves. These came from Surplus Center, which I bought a lot of hydraulic parts from surpluscenter.com. They have good prices, but one of the valves came defective. So I called them. They're going to send me a shipping label. I'm going to send this defective one back to them. They said they're going to test it, make sure it's defective. If it is, they're going to cancel, and I'll order another one. I don't know, they wanted me to put it in the hydraulic circuit to free it up. One of the spools is stuck. It only moves in one direction. It doesn't move in the other direction. I don't know what putting it in a hydraulic circuit, which I'm not ready to do, would make any difference. I don't understand how that would free it up. So I applied a good bit of pressure to the handle to try to make the spool move, and one spool only moves in one direction. It's supposed to be a double acting, and it doesn't move in the other direction. So I put a good bit of pressure on it to try to make it move, and it won't move. So there's something defective. There's either a piece of foreign material in the spool, in the valve, or there's a burr on the spool, or something preventing it from moving in one direction. It moves the other direction fine, and the other spool on that valve works fine, and the 2 spools on the other valve, the second valve, work fine. So there's clearly something wrong with that valve. Hopefully they'll test it and replace it in short order. So I don't need it for several more weeks. I'm a month away at least from installing it and getting those valves operational. I have a decal, a logo, which will go on there. We'll wait to put that on until we're a little further along. That helps. All right, so there's the second fan support. I started to cut it over here and realized I was so close to the edge here that it wouldn't be able to complete it, so I moved over here to cut another one. So messed up a little bit there. Okay, so I've got two of these. We'll go mount these on the tractor. The plasma cutter did a good job cutting out these small holes. I was concerned that, you know, it would have trouble cutting the small, these are like 1/4 inch holes. So it did a nice job. You know, there's like almost no dross on the back of this. It's cutting at 65 inches per minute. All right, so we'll go look at mounting these on the tractor. I know these screws are long, but they're all I have, so I'm going to use them. I haven't decided exactly whether I'm going to run this off the ignition circuit so that anytime the ignition is on, the fan runs, or whether I will switch it separately. My tendency is to switch it separately so I can control when the fans run. Okay, so that's the first one. Put the front one on and move on to something else. This is a mock-up of what I'm going to build for the front of the tractor to support the hydraulic cylinders. This is one piece of the assembly which will go on the front of the tractor in front of the grill. So this is just cut out of 1/8 inch. I'm going to cut the real parts out of 3/8, at least some of them out of 3/8, but I'm going to cut one out of, I made some cardboard templates yesterday and modified the design, and this is what I've come up with. So this is really just a prototype for what I'm going to put, and I'll show you where this goes on the tractor. Alright, so this is going to mount approximately here, and actually it'll be spaced away from the frame about 1.5 inches, and there'll be another one just like this on the other side, and there'll be pipes running between these two panels, and so it will look like a brush guard on the front of the tractor. And The hydraulic cylinders, which will control the blade, will mount to the side of this. There'll be one on each side, and then there'll be a shorter version of this mounted in the middle, which will support the middle cylinder. So that's what I'm looking at as the front of the tractor assembly. So it will look basically like a brush guard mounted. I'll fill this in. This will be plated over the step here, and as you can see, I have the three-point hitch here, three-point hitch blade here. I'm going to cut this. I'm going to remove this bracket right here, which is bolted on with 2 bolts. I'm going to cut this and move this arm all the way forward and attach it here. So this whole blade will come back, you know, almost 2 feet. This is a little bit close to the tractor right now, so this needs to move forward probably 3 inches. And there'll be 2 control arms. One arm on this side that'll hook back here on the front to the frame, and then hook to this pin. One on the other side, and then the hydraulic top link at the top will run from the middle of the brush guard down to a point on the blade assembly. So that's to be you know, determined exactly, but that's my current thought process for supporting the front hydraulic cylinders and dealing with the front of the frame, which, you know, due to the way the drive system is built, the frame has to extend out. You know, unless I lengthened the dimensions of this hood and brought the hood forward, you know, made it 7 or 8 inches longer, which would, I think, make it disproportionate. But in any case, so what I wound up here was with the frame stepping out over in front of the grill, so this brush guard assembly will take up that space and you know, provide support for the hydraulic cylinders. 3 of the 4 hydraulic cylinders, the right and left lift cylinders, the center top link cylinder, and then there'll be a 4th cylinder which will angle the blade. So that'll give me all 3 directions for moving the blade, so it'll give me a 6-way blade. So that's the plan for that. That'll be next episode, and probably the next 2 episodes working on, you know, building that assembly. All right, guys, that's all the time we have this week. I've got to wait for the paint to cure another day or 2 on the fenders and leg wells before I reinstall them, so I don't mess up the paint. It takes a couple days. I've got the fans installed, rear fan for the rear hydro. You probably can't see the fan for the front hydro. Cold weather or occasional use, you know, there's no need to run the fans. The hydrostats have aluminum finned bodies. They radiate heat pretty well, and there are, you know, many Cub Cadet tractors that run around without any cooling fans on them in any way, and they're, you know, the bolted to the transaxle, you know, it's a pretty big heat sink there. So it'd be an unusual situation that you would actually need the fans for cooling, but they're on there in case I do need them. And we've got most of the painting done. First couple coats on the tractor itself, so that's going to improve the appearance. And we'll come back next episode with the installation of the fenders and leg wells, seat. We get the seat back on. Then we start turning our attention to the blade mount on the front. And I think I've got line of sight for how to do that. I showed you the the prototype cutout for the what will look like a brush guard on the front, and that will support the hydraulic cylinders. And then we just need to fabricate mounts for the lower arms. I'm not sure I'm going to use these. This is an extra long upper link, which, you know, I might use, I might not. I have ordered some lower arm bushings that can be welded to the end of a piece of 3/8 or 1/2 inch steel. So, and I have some 1/2 inch, I have some 1/2 by 4 inch bar stock, flat bar stock. And I'm thinking about cutting my control arm, my lower arms out of that material. I haven't cut 1/2 inch material on the plasma cutter yet, so it's time to do that, or at least attempt to do that. So there's some, you know, some prototyping, some more prototyping and working out here what I need to do to mount the front blade. But I think my plan for the brush guard to support the cylinders and stuff is, you know, will work out fine. Okay, so we'll come back next week, work on that. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.